Welcome to the first episode of Season 2 EGFC Leads. This is a peer-to-peer online platform getting students together to discuss topics that are important and to just really unite and come up with ideas to help esports programs grow across the country. We have a great topic today talking about student leadership and student leaders at different colleges and universities in the country. We have a couple of special guests here today, and so we would just going to go around the room and introduce yourself if you could. You can unmute yourself if you haven't already done so, because again, this is a conversation we're going to have about student leadership. And I would like to start with Drew, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on this panel, some great fellow panelists, and super excited to talk about my experience. But I'm the esports coach here at Chadron State. Typically something you don't hear much of is the student being the esports coach, but I love the role I'm in. I've worked on building esports here since I was a freshman, and this is our first year as an official program. So super excited to kind of share the stage here and ready to talk about everything.
Good. Thank you very much. Good to have you, Drew. Corey, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I am a student at William & Mary, and I work for the esports program as a data analyst. I'm the lead data analyst of our data analyst team. This is my first semester working at the esports program, but I'm very excited to take what I've learned during my time at William & Mary as a part of the data science program and be able to apply it to this new realm. So I'm really excited to talk about my experience today.
Great. Thank you so much, Corey, and welcome. Zachary.
Hello, I'm Zach. I'm from the University of Delaware, and I'm the captain of the Overwatch team.
Good. All right. What's your major? What's your year?
Stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to my second year, so I'm a sophomore right now, and I'm in a computer science major as well. But yeah, I've been playing Overwatch for a really long time. I've been in the esports scene ever since high school, and this is now my second year playing on the varsity team here at Delaware.
Good, thank you. Welcome. And Max.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Max. I am a junior at the College of William & Mary, and I am the media team leader, the social media and communications coordinator for W&M Esports. I have been with the program since we first made our Instagram account, and it has been so exciting to see our program grow, to grow along with it, and develop my skills.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. And we come from different backgrounds and experiences with esports. And whether you were involved in traditional sports or esports, we've all encountered working with a group, working with leaders. So let's get an understanding, a foundation of what leadership means to you. So yeah, we could start with Corey. What is leadership, or what does a leader mean to you?
Yeah, of course. I think when I look at leadership in my personal life, it's really about how can you as a person help other people pull out qualities that they might not even see in themselves to help achieve a common goal. I think that's really the foundation of whatever I do when I take on any type of leadership role. It's how can I help others reach their fullest potential with the knowledge and experience that I have. I find that a lot of times when you step into a leadership role, people are really looking at you to be able to provide guidance for these big ideas and these dreams that they may have that they just might not be able to forge the way for themselves. And so they're really more so looking for a partner, a cheerleader, a supporter, someone who can say, you know, I believe in you. This is how we're going to accomplish this. Let's go, so that you don't have to do it alone. And that really helps build up confidence and lets people accomplish way more than they originally thought they could. So that's always what I'm looking for when I decide how I'm going to lead a team.
Good, thanks. Drew, what about you? What does a leader or leadership look like to you?
Yeah, I think for me, kind of a similar answer, but I think for me, it's in learning to inspire others to achieve, giving them, the inspiration, the tools to really achieve what they want to. In esports, every person has a different goal in mind. Some people have dreams of going pro. Some just want to be here to make friends and play games together. And so just realizing what their goals are with that and finding ways to inspire them through not only what you do, but what your teams are able to do.
Good. Max.
Yeah, just as both Corey and Drew had mentioned, a leader is defined by their effect on the people around them. And so I think leadership to me is all about morale. A good leader inspires confidence and lifts up their team. And even when things don't always go right, leaders can see the positives in all things, and they have that spin.
There you go. And Zach.
Yeah, I think a leader for me really is just kind of setting the example and the expectations almost. You're there to help your team or whoever you're leading. But at the end of the day, you're kind of showing them exactly what the expectation of them is, and then setting the example to show, like, this is how we should be going about things. This is, the way we should be trying to accomplish our collective goal. For me, at least, I think it's someone that I look at, and it's, who I'm trying to be like and work as hard as they do.
Good. So some of the key words I hear are inspirational, motivational, being able to model for others. And as you achieved your position where you are now, think of the stepping stones of how you got to where you are. What other platforms or opportunities did you have to grow these skills? So if you think about other activities that you're involved in, let's talk about that too, and how these transferable skills can apply to esports and esports leadership. Whoever wants to jump in, you can talk about what you do and currently and what you've been able to apply.
I mean, I think right now for me, a lot of what I've been, doing as a leader, I've, copied from people that I've looked up to in the past. I've been in the esports scene for a couple of years now. I've been on several teams, even outside of the college realm. So I've seen, what success looks like and how these people have, led the way. And so that's really what I just try to mirror and then put my own spin on, because, I can copy or like what I've done in the past or what I've seen in the past, but with having different groups of people each year, it's kind of just making sure, like, I have my key points that I want to meet, and then I'm trying to then adjust them so that they work with the people that I'm working with at the time. So I think a lot of it has just been looking up to people in the past and learning from them, and then now I'm able to pass that on to the people that I'm working with currently.
Good. Thanks. Anybody else? What else have you done that you've applied? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll jump in. I think for me, like, I've been involved in, if you guys are familiar with FBLA, I've been involved with that since I was in high school, so Future Business Leaders of America. And a lot of those skills I've even used here in esports, whether it's learning how to communicate, learning how to present. You don't realize how much you'll use that until you get into a position of leadership in esports. You have to talk to people a lot, explain a lot about what it is. And so being able to take those communication skills of what you want to say, what you want them to see, and transfer that into esports has been great. So I think there always is transferable skills, whether it's in your education, whether it's just basic communication skills that really transfer into esports really well.
Max or Corey?
Yeah, so as Drew mentioned, with the academics in particular, there are a lot of classes where you're working in a group on a research project, on a presentation. And so delegating those tasks, you kind of naturally become a leader in that sense. You get a feel for what it's like to be responsible for a group, especially when your grade is on the line. So having that kind of responsibility in maybe a smaller risk environment, you get the time to practice your skills, to get more comfortable in your responsibilities, so that one day you can be a coach for an esports team, or be a team leader for data analysis.
Good. And Corey?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap up what everyone said, I think I really agree. I'm really lucky to be involved in a lot of things on campus. I'm an athlete on campus. I'm a tour guide on campus. I'm a marketing intern. And so throughout all these different experiences, I think the most valuable thing that I've been able to incorporate into my leadership skills was being a good teammate, and really understanding that when you're working other people, what is your role in the team that you're playing? How can you be the best teammate that you can be? And that'll reflect in the current leaders that you have have in other areas. And like Zachary said, you'll be able to take some of those qualities that you've seen in good leaders that you've had in completely different areas and kind of add that to your repertoire of skills as you go into new, more interesting fields. Like I said before, I didn't really have any previous experience or much knowledge in the esports space, but I found the transition was a lot easier when I was able to take those qualities that I learned, like good listening skills, asking questions, good research skills, and it made it a lot easier to jump into the space and be able to apply the knowledge that I did have into a new topic.
Yeah, and we've encountered through our lives different opportunities of good leaders, great leaders, not so great leaders, and to know what we like and what we want to take with us and apply, and what to leave behind. And as a leader, when you work with different people, there are different leadership styles. What works for one may not work for another, and so being authentic to your own voice in that sense, but then also being able to listen to your teammates. And whether you're working on a group project, like Max said, if your grade is on the line, or if you're on the Overwatch team and a game is on the line, being able to communicate effectively. And sometimes in that moment when tension might be high, that you have to lead your group through that project or through that game. So, and I know each sports program is different in a way. There are some similarities, but really there's no cookie cutter way of an esports program to wrap it up and plop it into different universities, because each college and college campus has its own culture. And so I would like to hear from each of you how that culture is at your college. What support do you have from your administrators, faculty, even fellow students and classmates? So how does your esports program look at your university? I'm going to start with Drew.
Sure. So ours, obviously this is our first year. We've been a club for 3 years. So I've been building it up, working with other students. Obviously, it wasn't, one man show running a club, but getting it up to this level, we've been able to talk to administration now this last spring, go to them, and they really saw the value in it. And that's kind of been the trend since then. Shadron is not necessarily a traditional esports community. We're a small town of about 6,000 in northwestern Nebraska. Not really something you'd ever expect to see esports coming out of. But the buy-in from not just the community, the students, the administrators, has really just been amazing. Everyone's really seeing the value. We've had a really successful first season, have a couple of teams in playoffs, and just the support has really been shown through what this community is. Everyone around campus is telling us good luck, telling us congrats on big wins. The administrators are finding ways to, create opportunities in the future through scholarships as we grow as a program. So all that stuff is really all coming together. And I think that comes down to kind of, like you mentioned, that culture. It's here at Shatterin, it's really a community, with us being such a small town and, relatively speaking, a small college compared to most. And it's just really been great support from everyone.
Yeah, and it's interesting when all of a sudden people are like, oh my goodness, we have an esports program, and they see how successful you are. It's overnight success takes a long time, right? You have 3 years of being a club, and then you turn it into this. It takes time to grow and develop that. So kudos to you on what you've done there. Zach.
I mean, kind of the other side of the coin, I think Delaware is one of the largest schools. We have quite a big student body. And so, but similarly, like it was a long time coming to where we've been. To get here it's been a lot of work. I know. Me being newer to the school, like I haven't been around for much of it. I've kind of just been, here when it's already been supported. So I got to school and we already had a big esports arena. But I know a lot of people would have been working really hard to get us that. And then I think the big thing for me right now is we just signed a esports director, and it's just been amazing. Like, so many good changes are on their way, and it's just really reassuring to see the continual support, and not to just know that it's like they give us PCs and that's it. Like, we keep having people coming back, and we're growing, we're expanding, and since our school is so big, it feels like each year we're just able to reach more and more students because we have all these students that are interested. And so we're growing with like Valorant and all these other games that are coming out that are newer. So I really think just the continual support that I've been feeling lately has been great from Delaware.
Good, thanks. Corey and Max, kind of saved you two to the end since you're from the same school.
Corey, I can take this one. So
Yeah.
I was a little worried when I came to William & Mary because as a school that's just 330 years old or so, I was worried that it would be stuck in the past. But from what I've seen, William & Mary admin has been super excited about this prospect, our brand new program, William & Mary Esports. And it took a little bit of time. There was a huge setback with COVID. But now that we're starting to push out more events, we're getting more admin and professors even involved. We've seen a lot more interaction with the campus. We've been tabling every week. We've just been trying to get our name out there because we still have a few students who are shocked when they see that we have an esports program. And so we want to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. We want everyone to know we have an esports program here. We want everybody walking around with our esports logo on their sweatshirts. And that way everyone knows we came to play.
Good. And Corey, I would love to hear your perspective too, because like you said, you know, not necessarily really playing competitively, and did we even have an esports program, but how you can see your skills are transferable to this this ecosystem. But yeah, tell us about your journey to the program and what it's meant to you.
Yeah, adding to what Max had said before, I was one of the shocked students that was like, wow, esports, that's crazy. We have this. But I will say coming in, I think from the get-go, the level of professionalism that everyone in the program had made me very quickly realize, how did I not know this was a thing? Coming in as a part of the data analyst team, just from being a part of all the events that they were having, you could have told me that they were as well funded as some of the top football teams in the country, and I would believe it. I'd be like, yep, that makes sense, just because of how dedicated these players were, how dedicated all the team members were to really making a smooth and successful program for everyone that was involved and a part of it. I've really gotten to enjoy the fruits of the labors of the people who have come before me in terms of just the program being out there, in terms of systems that were already in place. And I think that I've just been given the opportunity to come in and say, well, this is kind of what I have, the knowledge that I have, the ideas that I have. And it's been met with a lot of positive reviews and a lot of positive excitement. And that just kind of takes into how to incorporate my skills into what the vision is going to be for the next pillar, so that, like Max said, everyone kind of knows it's a thing. There are no more shocked faces, and that this is something that can continue on in a very easily sustainable way. It's a very smooth machine, even though from the outside looking in. And I think that's what's the best part, is like, don't let them see you sweat, you know, type of idea, where it just looks flawless, even though from the inside we know, like Professor King said, the back work that we had to put in to make it look as smooth as it was.
Mm-hmm. And anybody out there listening, please feel free to drop in any questions in chat. We will get to them as soon as we can. We would like to hear from you. If you have any thoughts or ideas or suggestions, that would be great, just to go ahead and put that into chat. And Corey, you touched on a word that's been used quite frequently. And I just got back from a conference, and it was on sustainability in the esports ecosystem. So when you all think of your program and it being sustainable, I think there are some stereotypes that are out there about esports. Oh, they're just playing video games. How is this really sustainable? But you're able to show the organic grassroots efforts with the student body. And as student leaders in esports, how do you see this being sustainable? In what ways can we make sure that it remains sustainable?
I can kind of kick this off from a data perspective. One of the first things that I came in when I was talking to the esports program, I was thinking more so about what is going to establish a record? That's what we're all about in data science over here, is building databases, establishing a record, having good, clean data that we can go back and access and reference, because understanding your past is a really good way to lay out a clear line of action for the future. And that's really what we try to do as data scientists. So one of the ways that I think about sustainability is having automated systems that are clean, well understood, established, having locations for these data to live in, because when you have archives that you can go back to, access, use, it's really a treasure trove of information for anybody, players, coaches, we call them esports pioneers at our school, people who work in the wellness space or people who work in the data analyst or social media space. That's all information that they can pull from to have more creative and solid foundations and ideas for the future. And I think that's really how you build a program, is understanding the past of the program so that you can have a very clear idea of what the program should look like in the future, what's worked before, what hasn't worked before, that maybe we can go back and revamp and have it in a new creative way. So that's what I think about when I think of sustainability, is how can we preserve the legacy of the program?
I guess I'll jump in here on kind of a little bit more of the competitive side of things and recruiting side of things. That's a great insight in kind of the analytics, something that with a newer program, we haven't been able to do as much with analytics yet, but I think that's something that is super valuable to a program. But I think for us, creating a sustainable program has really come down to getting buy-in from younger students and then having them kind of mentored by the older players and students that have more experience. Kind of like I think Zach has talked about throughout the panel, is kind of building them up as they come up through the ranks. A lot of the times, you'll have a freshman who maybe isn't as experienced or hasn't really played competitive, and working with, a senior who's done 3-4 years of it now really helps them not only feel engaged, but also really develop into the program. And then they do the same when they become a senior with the freshman. So I think just creating those relationships of mentorship within the program, and then obviously I think any kind of varsity with academy system is a great way to create sustainability with teams. But yeah, I think that's a quick answer on it.
I really love that varsity. The varsity and academy system is something we've been using lately, where we have our starters and then we have our subs or our academy team. And so, our academy team gets the same resources as as the varsity team does. And then that way, when people from the varsity team leave or graduate, we have those people ready to go and have been, in the scene working and growing an understanding of esports as a whole, or even just their game. So I think that's a big way that we stay sustainable with, as in like teams and players. And then, recruiting with scholarships and everything is really, really helpful as well, just to make sure we have new talent coming in. But I don't know. I think it's very similar to a lot of other sports where, or other colleges. Like, if you think about a football team, like, they're recruiting from the high school level, and I think we're hopefully going to start seeing a lot of high schools getting into esports soon as well, because then you kind of just have that natural chain where that whole range of 8th to 12th grade is just right now. A lot of places around the country don't have esports in high school. I know I didn't. I had to go online and find it myself instead of going through my school. So I think as esports continues to grow, it'll become more sustainable because, we'll have that, longer reach to a lot of people right now that can't get into esports yet, or that are just needing help.
Yeah.
As someone outside of the competitive sphere, sustainability to me is keeping other people who maybe aren't interested in necessarily joining the program, but following all the achievements, the highlights, those on the outside, keeping them engaged in the program, making sure that they see everything that we're accomplishing, that family can watch their son or daughter achieve greatness in their esports program, friends too. So making sure that just everyone is engaged, including those interested in joining teams, but also maybe just those interested in watching, keeping them engaged.
Yeah, and thinking of that, Max, as a student, if I'm not a competitive gamer or anything like that, what can I do as a student to support my school's esports program? What are some ways I can do that?
Yep. So definitely watch all our games, comment in chat, root us on. That's a great way to start. But if you're looking to delve a little deeper, definitely reach out to your esports director, any of your friends on an esports team, and just let them know what you're interested in doing. If you're interested in creating graphics, video content, data analysis, just let them know where your skills lie, and they can set you on the right path. So it especially helps if you're interested in gaming, in competitive, in competition. So just as long as you have that drive and you've got some skills to back it up, then just start asking around is really the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, definitely. And so from just being I won't say just, but being a spectator, we need those people in chat. When EGF streams our games, we encourage those to come in and cheer us on in chat, to creating a position that may not even be there, advocating for yourself. And that's a student leader right there, to advocate for yourself. If something's not there, how do you build it? How do we get to, yes, let's create something and see how we could use that to then build the program and support it and make it stronger. So what are some activities that your program does that helps to bring in student involvement? What are some things? Zach, what do you do at University of Delaware?
I know the big thing that we just did maybe a month ago was the Overwatch League had their big grand finals, and we basically had a room right next to our esports arena that we just set up a projector in. We got food, we got a bunch of people together, and we just had a good time. We just watched the game. We met a lot of people. I know like the game was Overwatch, but I know a lot of people from other games are coming to watch as well. So I think we've just started to build this community around the esports, even if it's not with our games, but hosting these events where it's easy for people to find us and just kind of jump in and do whatever they want, hang out, have a good time. So I think hosting these events inside of your school where other students that aren't currently in the program can come and join in and just stop by and even just watch if they want to. It's a really healthy way to just kind of naturally get people to come and join the program or experience what you're experiencing. Because I know I have just a big love for esports, and if I can share it with other people, it's just great.
Yeah. What about you, Drew?
So we're a newer program. We haven't had a ton of engagement in terms of like non-competitive. That's kind of been the focus this first semester. But kind of looking forward, things we're trying to do, like you mentioned, the playoff watch parties. We've got potentially a finals coming up here next week that we're going to have some kind of watch party just right there in the dorms for kind of students just to watch. And like you said, just kind of building that community around it. We also have our club side of gaming, which is still supported by our esports teams. It kind of feeds into it in a way, kind of a more casual environment where those that don't want to spend 4 or 5 days a week practicing with the team, they just want to hang out with people that have that common interest in gaming and esports. That's kind of what we offer for kind of that side of things. I want to get more into kind of like you said, what you guys have there with kind of the analytics and the social media and all that stuff in the less competitive environment. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I think where we're at is good. Just a lot more community-based support for the program.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've started to see is that, and what I've been telling the administrators is that gamers are the next generation of alumni. And so if we can create a space for gamers to get together, whether it's competitively or casually, we can all support our esports programs at our colleges and universities. That's definitely a way to do that. And thinking about what Drew just said with analytics, Corey, maybe delve into that a little bit more. Could you give some examples of what kind of data you look at in esports and how programs can apply that?
Yeah, so coming in, if you are looking to start a data analytic program for your esports program, Coming in on the very ground level, at first you're going to want to kind of categorize all your players, log them. So that's things like creating player IDs, creating databases per team, logging game information. So wins, headshots, accuracy shots. I would like to preface this with my gaming experience at max is Rainbow Road and Mario Kart. So excuse me if some of my terminology is incorrect for the type of games that are being played. But that's the kind of thing that you want to get first is you want to really talk to the coaches and say, you know, what information is relevant for you when a game is over and you're looking at how a player did in that game. Once you kind of get a catalog of all that information, then you're saying, well, how can we assign a player a number, have this number every time a player plays a game, have all this information that the coach wants in some kind of database so that when you want to know how you're doing over the last 3 months, you can go type in your ID number and you can see all the games that you've played. You can get some very basic statistics of how you've been doing over time. And this is information that coaches can then pull when they're having their team meetings and things of that nature. I think one of the really important parts, personally coming in as somebody who is not as esports knowledgeable as other ours, has really been talking to the teams and talking to the coaches because I do not play most of the games that I am running analytics for. So it's really a collaborative thing of what in an ideal world would you want on a screen every single time a game ended, because then I can take my skills of being able to pull up those results for you and then I can help you interpret, you know, what these numbers mean, how to pull these numbers from the database, and then you as a coach can apply that information to your team. So that's really how it's applied in this sense. It's more of an organization cataloging situation where you have a very clear line of, you know, players' names, ID numbers, email addresses when you need simple things like we're having a tabling event this Saturday. Let's send out an email blast to everybody on the Overwatch team to have them come by and kind of do a meet and greet all the way down to, you know, we're coming up on a championship game. Let's look at how we've done throughout the season so that we can have an idea for practices that we need to have before the game. So it ranges in a large way, but really it's going to depend on what the coaches and players want. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about getting to work as an analyst is that it's so customizable and I'm learning so much as I go through to provide information for the coaches because all of our coaches and players are great. They spend a lot of time explaining every little thing to me and answering all my questions. So I've just gotten to learn a lot throughout the time. And it's, you know, communicative. So sometimes they ask me too about code and I get to, you know, share a little bit of my knowledge. So it's really a back and forth relationship that's really beneficial to everyone.
Yeah. And as we know, you're not born a great leader. It comes through trial and error. And there is a saying that confidence comes from competence and competence comes from imperfect actions. So what are some imperfect actions? Let's get real here. What are mistakes that you have made that you're like, oh my gosh, okay, not doing that again? Or you did something and you're like, okay, we can do it a little bit better. What are some examples that that you've lived or that you've learned from? It's okay. Be vulnerable. We can share.
I'll go for it. I think for me, about 2 years ago, we first went to our student government asking to get esports PCs, and we got a no. A lot of it was we didn't have the numbers to show the support yet. We didn't have the right answers to the questions that really showed that esports was going to be valuable for the campus. So I think that was kind of the first challenge, first kind of thing I had to overcome, was learning how to grow from being rejected, getting a no from administration, from student government, and finding a new avenue to get to that. And then I think another one most recently, obviously Thanksgiving break's kind of a weird time. We were coming into a match that we needed to win, and I gave my team too much time off. I let them take time to take break, and it ended up biting them. They came back rusty, came back not quite playing as a team like they need to, and they lost to a team that was about equal skill level. It just wasn't there. And I think that's something that I learned a lot from in terms of knowing that it's going to take sacrifices if you want to, achieve those really close games where the teams are even skill wise, and it's going to come down to who wanted it more. So I think that's where that's kind of two examples, I guess, of things I've learned from that I consider kind of moments, like, oh, how can we grow from that? Yeah.
And one thing I do want to say too is just to give you a shout out, Drew. I posted in the National Association of Collegiate Esports Coaches and Directors, looking for student voices to lend their voices to this panel. And Drew, you advocated for yourself, your program, and this is giving you exposure. I think this is wonderful leadership, that you look for opportunities and you seize those opportunities, and to share that, yeah, you got to know the first time, but you didn't give up. You got back into the game, and you figured out, okay, what was I missing? How can I improve? How can I make it better? And then you went back, and it looks like you got that yes. So that was kudos to you on that one. What are some other examples of challenges that you had, and the uh-ohs or the mistakes, or need to tweak that?
I can chime in on this one. I think this is very common in the data science space, which is sometimes overpromising. We very love to be super confident in our skills and what we can do within a certain timeline, but sometimes the code has a different plan for you, and you have to be very open to what your data is going to give you. And so originally, when you're doing consultations, people are telling you what kind of data you're going to get. You can really get into the vision because you want to be so helpful, and you can say, oh yes, if I have this kind of data, this can totally be something that we can put together. It should only take this amount of time. It should be great. And then sometimes you get the data and it's not at all what you were expecting. And then you're like, this cannot turn into what we talked about. And that's at the fault of no one. The data is what the data is, but then you have to be very proactive of, now that I have this data, what realistically can I do? And you have to face the music and sometimes go back to your client and say, I know I said I could do this, but it's either going to take more time, or with what I've been provided, I don't think this is exactly going to give you the type of answers that you want. But that makes a really good opportunity to really practice your communication skills and your planning skills, because we like to say at William & Mary that if you cannot give your client what they asked for, you should have a plan A through Z of other things that you can provide them that they may want. And so when you come into that meeting, saying, this might be outside of the scope of what I can do for you, but here are a list of things that I can do. Would any of these things interest you? It helps keep the conversation positive and helps keep the project moving forward. So I think that's a really important skill that I've learned.
I really like how you talk about the communication of things, and making sure you're just able to communicate with the people that you're interacting with and working with daily. And being just a player last year without any much responsibility, I was just show up and play the game kind of thing. I got to sit back and watch a lot of how things were being run or managed by other students in the past. And so I think a lot of what I've kind of tried to do this year is just really communicate with the players a lot more and try and understand what they want and what they need. And if someone brings something to me, it's like I really go out and do my best to see what I can do for them, because sometimes I can't give them exactly what they want or exactly what they need, but I can always do at least something. So we've had players in the past come, they have schedule conflicts or stuff like this, and I think that was a big issue for us last year. And now moving forward into this year, we've found the people with the resources that can come up with solutions and find answers to the problems that us as players are having, just so that we can focus on what we need to do in our games. Because playing at a collegiate level and taking all the classes can be overwhelming at some points. If you compare it to any other college athlete, like, these players are spending plenty of time online playing games and then also running to and from class every day. So I think the big thing for us is just being able to communicate with our players this year and really help them with any issues that they have.
Yeah, as somebody who also kind of has their own deliverables in a sense, just as Corey's talking about, it's really important that you kind of contain your excitement. You're going to have a bunch of ideas that you want to create, put out, and especially when you're just getting started, if you're just a one-person team, it can be really daunting. And so just limit yourself, pace yourself, understand that you can only do so much as a full-time student, and that way you'll prevent yourself from burning out. And so just understand your limits, I think, is something that's really important. But don't be afraid. No, I don't know. Just do what you can is what I mean to say.
Yes, risk wisely, right? It's sort of that entrepreneurial mindset. You want to risk wisely, and think about what your boundaries are. What are you capable of doing, and doing so in a healthy way. I know in our program, we really value wellness, and it takes time to develop our resources. But one of the big things is we had a student, a psychology major, Alan, who he said, well, we should have wellness advocates. I'm like, great, let's build it. And I let him take the reins, and he has put together a team of at least eight wellness advocates who are being trained by our director of our wellness center at William & Mary. And then each wellness advocate is assigned to one of our 8 titles. And one of the lessons that we learned, the mistakes, was that one of the wellness advocates went into a team and said, okay, before this game, let's all meditate. Well, that may work for some, but this particular team, it did not. It threw them off of their game day rituals, and they ended up losing. Well, instead of just throwing away the whole thing, we said, okay, what can we do differently? And it is more so in our approach here on out that the wellness advocates are not coming in to do an intervention, but they are coming in to say, okay, what works well? Let's meet you where you are. What resources do you need? And just as each college and university has its own culture, if you think about it, within the esports ecosystem, even the teams have their own culture and vibe. And and I don't know if our Smash team, they're very laid back. I call them their surfer dudes. They're just really chill, and they just go with it. And then our Overwatch team, they're very strict and regimented, and this is what we've got. And that's okay. You meet them where they are, provide them those resources, but you need to sometimes make those mistakes to learn from that. And each of you actually addressed something that I want to talk about as being a student leader, especially in your esports program. Student, leader, esports. You put that all together, you're a student. You have to go to classes. You have exams to take. You have group projects. You have papers and research to do. And then you're also a leader in your esports program. So how do you find ways to, and some people say balance. I've heard that before, but I've also heard another explanation of integration, because if you think balance, that's having two things equal here in your family life, your school life, all that, that's not necessarily always going to be balanced. So how do you integrate those elements of your life from being a student, different, a friend and esports and all of that? How do you integrate a well-balanced perspective? What do you do? Do you have your own timeouts or what? What do you do?
So I'm always kind of in this state of mind. I'm always kind of thinking, what can I do for the program? I'll go to sleep. I'll dream about esports. I'll wake up, and then I'll go straight to my computer and I'll start typing down all my ideas. But that's always, again, in my free time. It's when I'm not in class focusing on my material. I just have these stray thoughts, and that is a system that kind of works for me. But then also when I have that free time, when I get back from my classes, when I get back from my extracurriculars, I just sit down and I kind of take all those stray thoughts and I condense them into something that I can talk to about at meetings. Just some notes that I've been thinking about this week, ideas. And so just having those times where I can just sit down with my thoughts, all the thoughts that I had during the week, and express them out on paper, For me, social media, I'm making graphics. So if I can get those out on Canva, Adobe, then I am, in that sense, integrating all that extra time that I have into just one time where I can get all my thoughts down on paper. So it's definitely just like any other extracurricular in that you dedicate a certain amount of time to it. It's just spread out entirely throughout the week. At any point, if you ever get a second, just what's next for our program.
Drew or Zach, Corey,
Yeah,
how do
sure.
you all manage your responsibilities?
So, I mean, this is something I've had to learn even before I was officially hired on as the esports coach. Just learning to go do things around campus that aren't esports is really important. I know I love it. I would do it 24/7 if I could. I love my players. I mean, my players have, a lot of them become my best friends too, within that. So I think really just whether it's, going to shoot hoops, whether it's going to a athletics event, whether it's going to whatever events that your campus offers, and just taking time to kind of take your mind off things. A lot of it's really hard to take a break from esports because it is really something that we're all passionate about. So just finding times to take a break from it and to take your mind completely away from it and just engage in something that isn't it. And in terms of classes, fake it till you make it. Just keep trying, keep doing what you can to really learn and grow. Remember that you're here for an education is kind of my advice with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for us at least, we kind of lay out at the beginning of each semester once everybody has their class schedules, because we don't start until a couple weeks into each semester. We really just lay out a clear expectation with our players, like, this is what we need from you. We need you to come practice this. We have games here, and here. And then, we just really make it clear. We just give them as many resources as we can so that they can, plan around it and plan out their days and their schedules. So, hopefully if you're planning well enough and we can help them with that, they really won't have too many moments where it's like panicking trying to submit a paper, or, I don't know, just conflicts with other classes. So I think the big thing that we can do just to help other people is just really make it as clear as possible and, set an expectation of what we need from them. And then, making sure that we give them time and we aren't, demanding their nights 7 days a week, to practice or whatnot. I know a lot of people play outside of our official practices. So yeah, I don't know. I think the big thing is just making it clear and communicating with everybody, this is what we need. And if there's issues, then obviously they can come to us and we will resolve it somehow. I know we were talking earlier about how, we have a varsity team and then we have an academy team. If a varsity player has a final, I know we're coming up on finals, and I had to get a final moved so that I could play in a game next week. Like, we have these resources to help people that need things changed or slid around. So yeah.
Good. And I think supporting each other in and out of esports is important as well. And you talk about they become some of your best friends and showing up to different things. And I'll also share from a faculty perspective. I've been a professor at William & Mary for 23 years, and students come in, they graduate in 4 years, they come and they go. But I think when you build those relationships, that network, and you show that you care, no matter what it is, I think that gives the student a sense of belonging. And that's what you're doing as a student leader. You're giving your teammates that sense of belonging in the esports community. One thing I know we like to do at William & Mary is give each of our varsity players a professor letter, a faculty letter that they give to their professors. And just like you were saying, Zach, you have this game, you had to move an exam or a due date. It's not a get out of jail free card, but it is, hey, we do have a game. It is going to mess up at the same time. But faculty being willing and supportive in that regard is really important. we actually had some faculty who didn't know we had an esports program, but they received the esports letter, and it did a couple of things. One, it created dialogue. The students actually had a conversation with their professor, like, yeah, we have this, I'm involved in this. And then I had some professors email me and said, first of all, I didn't know we had this. This is really cool. And secondly, I play these games or certain games. How can I get involved? And so some of our students brainstormed and we came up with professors versus players challenge that we're going to do next semester. We're going to draw out the faculty, bring them in and compete against some of our players. And again, that's just showing that we have this community here and that it's just not the students, it's everybody. It's so interdisciplinary. It goes across all and one other thing too is show up. Show up. Yes, whether it's a watch party or a stream, and you're involved in different things. Max, I know I'm just gonna throw you out. He's in an improv group, and I showed up to one of those. And Corey, she's like she said, she's an athlete, and I showed up to one. But you were sick that day, so you weren't able to be out there. But again, I think faculty, students, everybody can really engage in the esports community, your program, and help it to remain sustainable for the next generation that comes. Just a couple of last minute thoughts. So if you reflect and you think about different people who've influenced you and who have been leaders in your life, who comes to mind? Is there anybody that you would like to share about that they've impacted your life in some way? And what have you learned from them, or what characteristics do you appreciate?
I can talk about this one a little bit. So I was a very excitable high school student, I think, and I knew very early on that I wanted to go to college, and I knew very early on what I wanted to do. And so my senior year, I actually reached out to the William & Mary cheer coach, and I sent her a very long letter, and I said, I want to cheer in college, I want to major in this, I want to do all these amazing things once I get there. I had not even applied to this school yet, but I was like, when I come and I get there, I want to do all these amazing things. And she was the most amazing mentor in the sense where she was like, yes, done. She was like, how, I don't know if you're coming or not, but if you do, like once you get on campus, everything you want to do, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can get you talking to people, and let's figure out how to have you do it. And she's been like that since my freshman year. I came in, I tried out for the team, I made it. She helped me, get in contact with students who her previous cheerleaders or people who knew cheerleaders on the team that could talk to me about the majors that I wanted to pursue, about some of the clubs that I wanted to pursue. And so she was really integral in getting me a network on campus to talk to other people. And she was also just somebody who was always there. Like whenever I had a question or whenever I was nervous or didn't think I could do something, she was always a phone call away. She always says like her phone is on for us at any time. And there has been times where it's been very late at night and I've called her and she has answered. She has always answered the phone. So I think in that sense, a mentor who can just be there, even though she was kind of like me in this situation where her skill set wasn't necessarily in my area of interest. She was like, I do not have the tools to help you, but I do have some tools that can get you to people who have the tools to help you. And so let me share those with you. And I think that was really great. And she's just been the best since my freshman year. So I really appreciate her. Her name is Coach Berg.
There you go. I was going to say, I always like to put a name to someone, and that way it makes them more real. And that just goes to show your journey into esports can take so many different paths. I mean, you came to William & Mary reaching out to the cheerleading coach, and then now you're doing this. So all of these come together and have really added to your overall collegiate experience. So great. Thank you, Corey. Drew, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Dr. French Collins. I met her my sophomore year here. I took a Intro to Public Relations class as a marketing major. I was just taking it because it was filling an elective. I now have a minor in public relations and really have enjoyed it quite a bit since. But kind of weird twisted paths ended up now she's my supervisor who I report to. So we're positioned under one of our School of Business awkwardly right now. And she became the interim dean this year that I got hired. So now not only has she been a professor for me for 2 years, now she's also my supervisor. But I think the big thing that really made her a great mentor is she's been an advocate for me ever since I've, first had a class with her, whether it was pushing me to try harder in classes, whether it was, she connected me last winter. I was the announcer for our home basketball games.
Mm.
She has given me so many opportunities. And now with esports, she is a massive advocate, helping me talk to administration, helping me build the program and, connect the dots to really make this program successful. So I think she's just been a great mentor in terms of, like I said, being an advocate. I think that's something that is hard to do. And especially with esports, with it, how new it is, sometimes it's hard to be your own advocate. And having a mentor who's there for you to advocate for you and to just talk you through things, so that you can advocate for yourself, is definitely has been great. So Dr. French Collins has definitely been my mentor throughout college.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful story. Thank you so much. And Zach.
I really think the biggest example for me is probably my grandfather. I mean, just growing up with him, he's always been in my life. He's always been involved, and I've kind of seen how he runs or like leads the family, I guess you could say. And it feels like we're always like voting on events or activities, or he's polling us for trying to get our opinions on things that we want to do or stuff like that, or how to go about things. So I think I've really just tried to use that model as much as I can and take inspiration from him. So I'm really always just, asking people what they need, what their opinions are, and really reaching out to players to make sure that I get their opinions before I make any decisions. So I just think my grandfather is the perfect example for me of how I want to lead. And he's just been a really big inspiration throughout my entire life.
Good. And what's your grandfather's name?
Professor Dixon. He's
there you go. Wonderful. And Max.
Yeah, just like Zach, a family member, I'd have to go with my dad. He taught me at a young age to ask and you shall receive. It was kind of like his way of saying, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so my freshman year, I reached out to you, Professor King, thinking that I could see myself getting involved with our fledgling esports program. And so I got to say it was because of his wisdom from a young age that I was willing to take advantage of every opportunity that came my way. And I really am thankful for his advice.
Yeah. So remember that, take that to heart, because as those people were inspirational in your life, you as a student leader in the esports program, you're going to be an inspiration to those who are coming through as well. So thank you all very much for your time. And thank you for joining us for episode 1 of EGFC Leads season 2. And we look forward to our next topic of discussion. Stay tuned. Thank you all so very much.